Hi, my name's Harry. I'm a sales director for an ad tech startup in the native digital world, and I'm here to talk to you about my day-to-day. So my overall task is sales basically, and it's not your day-to-day cold calling sales, it's all about education of our marketplace that we create and the benefits to brands. And my responsibilities vary from annual targets to quarterly targets to daily KPIs and tasks. Examples of that could be some key clients that we want to meet this quarter, this month, doing end of campaign reporting for certain clients, key clients, and making sure they're booked in and organising that, as well as client entertainment. In terms of the targets and my annual quarterly targets, it's not just individual ones for myself. I have a team that contributes to that target, and I have to create targets for them within my target to allow them to take over 30-40% depending on what sort of patch they're working on. Key skills required for the role vary depending on whether you're in a startup or a big organisation. I'm going to talk about both, right? Because I've had experience of both. When I was in a big organisation, key skills required was love for the industry, love for media and advertising, and being around brands. That is so important because day to day you've got to love what you do. Other key skills are communication. We talk to people all day, so you have to be able to talk to a grad compared to someone who's heading up a team, compared to someone who's heading up a company, compared to someone who's a UK manager for a certain brand. So being able to vary your communication skills depending on who you're speaking to is so important. Being able to do that without any notice or any prep is really good at gauging who you're speaking to pretty quickly. Outside of that, you go into startup mode and you take all that with you. That's still so important, but you have to have two things in startup, in my experience, that hit the ground running. One, experience the industry and know the landscape, and it is huge. Digital is a huge landscape. So, 1 to 2 years should give you a good top line view of how the land lies. And two, technical knowledge. I don't talk about coding or anything like that, but technically how things are integrated with other things, how this DSP is integrated with that SSP, and what that means for your company is really useful. And the way you get that is reading, industry reading, tech reading, publication. You'll learn so much more from them for industry than you will from a textbook after you graduate. Sales in general, you don't need a degree for. I think you can sort of get straight into it from college if you know that's what you want to do. The great thing about having a degree before you get to sales is you actually get to aspect all different parts of something like business, if that's what you're doing, or media, and you get to see what the marketing role's like as opposed to a sales role or a demand role or a strategy role, etc., even if you just like the economic side of things. So we tend to look for, when we're at a big PLC, people with degrees to show someone, because it's something that makes them a bit more well-rounded. Not to say that if someone hasn't done a year in 4 different aspects of business like strategy, economics, marketing and sales, doesn't mean that they aren't as equal, if not better, because they have the experience, but the degree is super helpful. In terms of experience in the industry, it's a lot easier to get into a bigger company than a startup, because at a startup people require you to contribute as soon as you join. We've got an example, and it's just the most extreme example of a different route to market I've ever seen, which just goes to show you that there are, because in different ways. We were looking for 2 grad roles, but from an analytical background, so they're not exactly in sales, but data analysts. And we had an interview from a lady who was a toxicologist. She's got a master's in toxicology, so she basically worked on dead people for the last 2 years. And she walked into the interview room with the most bubbliest personality. She's like, look, I just fed up of not seeing people alive anymore, so I want to move career. She had a fantastic analytical background from the blood that she used to look at and whatever, and it just hit all the right notes. She's been open for 2 years now. Typical progression in a demand or sales role in digital tends to go in sort of 2 and 3 year blocks, right? You're going to want 18 months to 24 months of experience at every level, whether you're on the ground selling to brands and agencies, to looking after a small team, to then heading up a department or a group of teams or a group of patches, agency patches. And that goes in 2 to 3 year steps. I'm 11 years in now, 11 or 12, through different parts of the industry. So I did 10 years at the publisher side, looking after the digital there, and now I'm at the tech side. And there are some people who've gone up the ranks quicker. There are some people that haven't progressed but are happy. And often you'll find, and this is something you learn, I think, in any industry, that people always want to be the manager, and you tend to find if you're an out salesperson at heart, you don't really fit that manager role. You sometimes want to just be your own contributor, and you don't want to worry about your commission being affected by someone else. You just want to do your own thing. So, you know, that is the standard route, but a lot of times you see the best salespeople get promoted and come back down because they're happier, and that's where they're at. In digital and tech and advertising, sort of 3 different markets merged into one that we do. Career progression varies. If you're at a newspaper and you make your way up from the guy that sends all the little ads on the website to looking after the whole team, that's a really direct, easy route, because a big PLC or a big newspaper will put the steps into place for where you need to go. In a startup, it's about how quickly things evolve and change, and how hierarchy changes from being a real flat one to having things into place. So there is no blueprint. With experience and career progression, if things are stagnated for someone or whatever, you tend to find that someone moves to a different part of the industry to get different aspects of experience. So I sort of feel at newspaper I got to where I needed to be so quickly and so young. It was a big wait for me to get to the next step, and I diversified my experience to the ad tech side now, and I learned more my first year at a tech company at the startup than I did in 10 years at a digital publication. Uni or apprenticeship. So I think from an ad tech and publisher side it's unique. I don't really see programs from people straight out of college. Not that we don't take any, I just haven't seen any. From my client side, in terms of agencies and brands, I know 3 or 4 people who are heading up whole brands for agencies now that joined straight after college. So they went into an apprenticeship scheme within agencies and brands 5 or 6 years ago, and they sort of worked their way up. So entry-level salaries are around mid-20s from brand side, probably 30 plus from our tech side. But the higher the salary, the higher the target, obviously, and the higher the stress load. As you progress, and one thing about our industry in digital, and actually any sales role, right? When you hear salary, my advice to anyone in the sales role is ignore the salary and look at the package, because commission has got to be part of it, and it's got to be a huge part of your negotiation deal and your drive. We're not here to earn our base. One of the most successful people I know in the sales world had no salary, he was 100% commission. And you know, he's slightly different, but first 3 or 4 years was only 300-400k, because that's what drove him, and he really worked hard for that. So salary is one thing, package is another. As you increase and you become sort of a sales manager, what have you, you're looking at packages from anywhere from 50 to 80k, and then it just goes upwards from there. So some companies that I have day-to-day contact with, the likes of Google, the likes of Tees, Triple Lift, they're tech companies. In terms of the papers or the publications that we deal with, the Mail Online, Daily Mirror, Sky Sports, Give Me Sport, Telegraph. And then from a brand perspective, there's two routes there. You can go from the agency side, the likes of Group M, definitely check those out as well. I would say reach out to the HR or recruitment people and say, one, find out if they've got any career days going or career fairs, because I know a lot of the big partners do. But 2, if you know someone, definitely reach out to them. We are a super strict industry where we can't go on certain floors or what have you. It's pretty open, so if someone did want to shadow, it should be pretty easy to do. Actually, I got it in the luckiest way. I cut my teeth at the hardest type of sales early on, so I knew different levels of sales. So I started on my placement year. I fell into a recruitment consultant year, because I missed out on a job at Channel 4 in the marketing department. And my mate who got it from my uni, he said I had this job lined up, so it was really, really lucky. And it was the best thing that happened to me in terms of the sales career, because I literally was starting up cold desks. I was cold calling all day long. I learned to not be scared to speak to people or pick up the phone or what have you. So I always give advice to people that want to get into sales. If they know they want to do sales, they know they want that pressure, they know they want that money, is to go and cut your teeth with one of the hardest sales roles you can do early on. So after a year of doing that, you're so durable that you can take any type of sales role going forward. I've always enjoyed achieving targets and doing it as a team. I think as a sales director, you love seeing the work you do or the strategies you do or the learnings you give benefit not just yourself, because we're all here to earn money ourselves and hit targets ourselves, but benefit a wider team and a wider goal. One of the things about the company that I'm here now that I learned for it really contributes to my why is I fell in love with the ethos and the message and the drive and what we're trying to do here, and that motivates me near enough every day on why I'm here and why I should go and do the next thing on my to-do list of my tasks.